Okay, Mr. Paul here, back with another video talking about voice leading. So this is kind of like part two. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie some of these voice leading ideas we talked about into stuff you've probably already done before if you worked with like the favorite books or any sort of educational material. So you might have heard me refer to this 1-4-5 progression a lot, right? What the heck does that mean? Well, I do have videos going over chord families, and it kind of refers to that. So I'll go over that real quick, but that's worth reviewing if you don't know that. So say I have a C scale. And of course, this works in other keys. We just do it in C when we're teaching it to make it a little easier to tell what's going on. Well, I could build a chord off of each one of these notes. And then I could give each one of these chords a number. So let me go ahead and fill that in real quick. B, D, F. And then we're all the way back to C, E, G. All right, so basically what I'm doing is I'm taking C scale, and then I'm building a chord off of each note. So in the chord family video, I probably talked about these Roman numerals a little more and what they mean. But I will discuss that a little more here. Let me go ahead and put them in there. And back to 1. All right, so quick review. We have some capitalized Roman numerals and some lowercase Roman numerals. So the capital ones are supposed to represent major chords, and then the lowercase ones are minor chords. So for example, our 1 chord is major, it's C, E, and G. But then our 2 chord is D minor. So we end up getting this sequence of chords when we do something like this that shapes up this way. And this is true for every major key. So if we're in B flat major or D major or whatever, the first chord's major, second one's minor, third one's minor, fourth one's major, fifth one's major, sixth one's minor, seventh one is diminished, hence the little degree sign there. All right? So that's just going over the chord family stuff real quick. So in classical, one family we really like, or one cadence I should say we really like, is this 1-4-5 progression. All right, this happens a lot. So anytime we talk about a 1-4-5 progression, 1-4-5-1 usually goes back to 1. Kind of works this way. Whoop, then it just circles around and it just keeps doing that. That's what I'm talking about, all right? So take a picture of that or whatever you need to. I'm gonna erase it and then I'm just gonna focus in on these chords here. So what chords did I end up with? My 1 chord is C. My 4 chord is F. And then my 5 chord is G. So if you remember a couple things about voice leading, or not voice leading, sorry. Well, just some of your lessons. You might know that we have a 7 chord. We like to turn the 5 chord into a 7th chord because it just sounds nice. And I'll explain a little bit about that in this video why. So I'm gonna throw that 7th in there too. So that's a G dominant 7, G, B, D, F. And we're gonna take these notes and figure out how to flip them around to get a more classical thing going on here, all right? So we're gonna keep this one in root position, but we're gonna flip these chords around. So if you remember from the last video, we already kind of figured out a pretty good flip for F, but here's the notes for my F chord, and the idea is I wanna keep this C where it is, then I want these 2 notes to be as close to these 2 notes as possible. So A isn't really anywhere close to E, but it's pretty darn close to G. So we'll put it there. Then F was kind of a floater that could have went to E or could have went to G. But since A only comfortably goes to G, that means F is gonna go after that E. And that says voicing C, E, G to C, F, A. All right? So again, we're flipping it so we don't have to jump all the way to that chord. So this one here, this one's a little trickier. So let's talk about this a little more in depth. So I'm gonna erase this. And we're gonna talk about it a little bit on the side here. So G, B, D, F is the chord, okay? So a couple things about 7th chords. And I don't think I mentioned this in my other 7th chord video, so I wanted to make another one of those. But it turns out, if we're thinking root, 3rd, 5th, 7th, then I don't really need the 5th. It's a reinforcing note, but it doesn't really add much to the chord. So it is not uncommon at all for us to get rid of the 5th whenever we have a 7th involved in a chord. It's just kind of one of those things. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this G7 and I'm gonna get rid of the D because it basically sounds the same. So D is just gone. We pretend it doesn't exist. So we're left over with G, B, and F. So we want to arrange this chord according to voice leading principles and see how close we can maybe get it to these chords over here, right? So classical does things a little weird, but it still works out. So let's see, we have an F in common. There we go. So F's done. Then we have B and G left over. So we can kind of play the same game where it's like B kind of wants to go to A, it kind of wants to go to C. You know, it's hanging out in between. But for G, there's only one really clear answer, and that's that A needs to go to G here. Because C can't really go to G smoothly. It doesn't make sense. But C can go to B smoothly. So we end up with this voicing, B, F, and G. This is very common. So this would be like a 1-4-5 cadence in C major. Then a lot of times it just lands right back on the one chord after that. And it'll just push right back into C, E, G, no problem. All right, so let's hear what this sounds like. I'm gonna go here. I have C, E, and G, C, F, and A, the way we've talked about it before. And there's a new one, B, F, G, and that goes back into C. So a little discussion on why we would always want to make this 5 chord a 7th chord. Maybe not always, but in classical world, definitely. Because this B and F both really want to push back into C and E. So we get what we call like a double resolution. These two notes both resolve back in this way, right? So without that F, without the 7th, it still works. But that F just pushes a little heavier into that. So this works in every single key, and the voice leading and how we flip these chords around is going to be the same in every key as well. So I'm going to run this in a different key real quick, and then we'll call it a day on this video here. So I'm going to keep these Roman numerals in there because that's not changing. And that's kind of the whole point, is that we can apply this to a bunch of different key signatures. So let's think, if we have, let's do a A scale. So here's my A scale down here. Oh, I'm going to write it on the other side actually. You might not be able to see that. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. And then I got to get some sharps in there. So if you know your scales, we'd have F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. All right, so I'm going to build a chord off of 1, 4, and 5 there. All right, so my one chord is A major, A, C sharp, E. Then I'm going to take this 4 chord, which is D major. I'll write that down here. D, F sharp, and A. So I'm going to rearrange that with voice leading, inversions to make this work. So A can stay on the bottom. Then, F sharp. Well, that's nowhere close to C sharp, but it is close to E sharp, so I'll put it there. And then, hey, D's pretty close to C sharp there. It's a half step away. Great. Okay, my 5 chord is going to be E7. So we get E, G sharp, B, and D. Well, same rules apply. We don't care about the 5th, so get out of here, B. We don't care about you. We're left over with E, G sharp, and D. So let's get these notes as close to the others as possible. Hey, we have a D in common, so we'll go ahead and put that there. Then we got 2 more left, G sharp and E. Well, E is nowhere close to A, so that means G sharp must go here. And then E is pretty close to F sharp, so that works out. And then we'll just end up back in root position for our 1 chord. So this is the exact same cadence that we just had in C major. It's just an A major now, and I'm doing the same voice leading and everything. Let's see if this works. So here's my A major chord, A, C sharp, E. That's gonna go A, D, F sharp, then G sharp, D, E, to A, C sharp, E. Boy, that should sound very familiar. So these cadences all kind of sound the same even if they're in different keys. So here it is in C again. But then here it is in A. Same thing, just a little lower down the keyboard. So we can do this with all of our keys. There's some different progressions that work out better in minor keys, but that is everything there in a nutshell. So hopefully between this, the inversion videos, and the last voice leading video I sent, this kind of shores everything up. And then, if we get into jazz and we're working some bigger 7th chords and 9th chords and these big extensions, we got to think a little harder about this. But this is the idea in a nutshell. So I hope this helps. See you on the next one.